Hey everyone, Radhe Radhe. My name is Ayan Prasha. I'm the Cloud Native Developer Advocate, and today we'll be learning about another topic that is about the services. Uh, we'll be continuing our Cloud Native and Computer and Kubernetes playlist. Today we'll be learning about services. Service usually acts as a kind of an interface that helps you in connecting different pods with the external services and with the external request that has been initiated by you or by any other kind of a tool or any particular request or any process that has been started yet. So the services usually acts as a kind of an interface between the different pods, different containers of that belongs to your cluster, that belongs to your node, and helps the external requests that has been initiated by the users or by the group of processes that has been working in background uh, due to some particular reason. So the services usually helps you in reducing the coupling as well between all the different resources and the pods in your cluster. There are majorly three type of the services. There are the NodePort, another one is the ClusterIP, and the third one, which usually the cloud providers usually has is the load balancers. So if you are working on some kind of a virtual machine in the most basic kind of a framework or the service on your local machine, then it won't be possible to use the load balancer. So let's try to understand what do we mean by the about the cluster IPs and the node port. So the first one is node port. NodePort usually helps you in connecting the containers that has been running onto some pod in your node, in your cluster, and then you can directly request to that particular container instead of accessing the port of your particular node or the cluster at the moment. Let's think of it as a particular case where you've been requesting the front end that is running some particular container in your pod. You've been requesting, you've been providing some kind of request, you've been requesting some kind of service through that container that's been hosted onto some pod on your cluster, and you just have the IP of your node. But we all know that the port number of node will be different, and the container that we require at the moment, it will also be having a different port number at the moment. So instead of accessing forwarding your request by forwarding the port number of your container as well along with your node, along with your cluster, it would be a lot more tedious kind of a work. So that's why instead of cut shorting this all blood path, the node port service was actually being introduced. Services can be considered as a interface which can help you in this particular kind of a situation, in which you have the nodes port, you have the port number of your node, and then you can forward it to your the node port service, and the NodePort service can help you in connecting with the particular container that you've been asking at the moment from in your cluster or any particular pod that's hosting that particular container. So yeah, that's about the NodePort. It will be in your YAML manifest file. You'll be asked to submit a port number, a target port, as well as also the node port that is being connected at the moment. So it will be the node port, and we all know that the services that is being hosted in your cluster at the moment, it will be having its own API, and that API is known as the cluster API. Okay, so the cluster API and the NodePort are usually being given by the Kubernetes. It's a kind of a default service, so that's why if you would also run the kubectl get services, then also you'll get to know that the cluster IP has been already initiated in your Kubernetes cluster at the moment. So it is a default service that has been provided to you by the Kubernetes and the NodePort as well. You are not about the NodePort, you might require to run define your YAML manifest file to get a new node port at the moment. And the load balancers, on the other hand, load balancers are the kind of a premium edition that has been given by the cloud providers only, by like the AWS and Google GCP. Although if you would launch a load balancer service, then it will act as the same cluster IP and the node port as well. So it was all about the node port. Let's try to understand what do we mean by the cluster IP. Cluster IP, as we have already get basic image about the cluster IP, that it's the IP that has been given to the service that we are holding at the moment. But I said in the starting that these services usually acts as in reducing the coupling between the different pods, and that was because it helps a service usually helps you in deploying your microservice application as soon as possible, because coupling can help the services can help you in grouping different pods, in helping in connect in increasing the connectivity between the different groups of your pods. So let's say we have our front end, we have our back end, we have our database, we have our security, and all of these will be having different numbers of pods as well. Let's say our front end will be having different pods, one for managing your JavaScript, other one could be managing your CSS or the React and React Native, and various different kind of the things as well. The static files or the images, videos, or whatever things you want to just deploy on your front end or the UI UX. It all those all will be hosted onto different pods, and all those pods will be forming up your front end. So you can build up a kind of a service that can talk to all these particular services, so that if a user asks for any service from the external from outside your cluster at the moment, if he will ask you to get some kind of a request to access those particular requests, then they can directly contact the particular service that's been hosting all those particular or connecting all those particular pods at the moment. So we can have a front end, we can have a back end service as well, we can have our database server as well, database service as well. So all of these will be having different number of pods, different types of pods, because they will be having different network policies as well. You can initiate different network policies. So they will be having different pods, they'll be having in their different containers as well. They all are the different components of your single application at the moment, your whole application. So in this way you can access all of these different components of your application with the help of services, and services can help you in increasing the connectivity between the different pod groups in your cluster. So this was all about the cluster IP and the NodePort, and now the load balancers. Let's say that the AWS or the GCP usually provides you with the load balancers. Let's say we are having different number of pods that are running at the moment in different nodes. We also get a result after processing the request that has been given by the user. So those results will show in different nodes that has been hosted. But to handle the different traffics that are being involved, that are being engaged at the moment in different nodes, those all will require a load balancer for your application. So for handling up the load, for handling the different traffic, for handling the different requests that are coming at the moment in your cluster, so handling all those different loads, you'll require load balancer. And the GCP, AWS, all of these cloud providers usually offer you with the load balancing capability with this load balancing service. So you can initiate the load balancer as well in the YAML manifest file, in the YAML definition file. Will be will try to see all those particular YAML manifest files as well in the short in now at the moment. So yeah, and that was all about the NodePort, about the cluster IP as well, and about the load balances as well. Let's try to understand about all of them in our lab. So here's our lab at the moment. So we'll try to look up all the ML manifest file, all the definition files that are running at the moment, that will try to define our services at the moment. So yesterday we tried to understand about what do we mean by the API versions, kinds, metadata, labels, and all of those particular things. So in this particular lab, we will only try to look up what is the common syntax, or is the common uh, you know the whole structure that of our YAML manifest file or our definition file defining uh, files of the NodePort and of the cluster IP. In the later sections, when we'll try to try about the cloud services and the cloud providers, whether it's about the AWS or about the Azure or GCP. At that time, we'll try to cover about the load balancers as well in the later section of our playlist. So here's our whole command line. We have certain different files as well in our cluster at the moment. If we want to look into the any particular file at the moment, then we can look into all right. So here
I have different services at the moment. kubectl get services. As you can see, I have different files. One is the NodePort. The Kubernetes is the cluster IP that was by default been deployed by the Kubernetes. I haven't deployed this particular file, but as you can see in the cluster IP, let's say I have some backend files that are running at the moment in my environment. Then I have produced the backend service for handling all those particular backend files. And my app service is the NodePort that will be handling our accessing the particular IPs and the addresses of our port numbers of different containers that are being hosted onto some particular pod that we are requesting for at the moment. So that's the my app service, that's the NodePort, and the other one is the backend, that is cluster IP. So let's try to understand about the first of all, we'll try to look into each particular NodePort and the cluster IP as well by the kubectl describes command, as I yesterday mentioned about. So kubectl describe service my app service. Yeah. So as our whole detailed description about the service, that is the my app service. Its namespace has been set to default. In the next lecture, we'll be learning about the namespaces as well. We normally have three namespaces in our Kubernetes cluster. If we haven't done much, then it will automatically get set to the default one. So here's the namespace default. I didn't put any particular kind of label, so that's why it doesn't have any label. And let me show you. So what was the file called? Let me see. Oh, we usually also have the OML file. Yeah, let's try to know about it as well. Get services OML. Fine. So also O is the output. O stands for output, so that's why I put O dash O. So the first one is service. First one, what's the name of it? Once in, I think it's Kubernetes. Yeah, fine. For output, it's the Kubernetes. But mouse is good. Yeah. So the given two API service Kubernetes, it's the Kubernetes, and the given was, yeah, it's the backend service. And the cluster ID will look into it in some time. All right, so here's our NodePort service that I deployed at the moment. So the API version is V1, kind is service, and the metadata creation timestamp. It covers the timestamp that I at the particular time that when I created this particular YAML file. That's the 5 or it's 9th May 2025. So that's a huge date at the moment. We are having kind of a war situations between the India and Pakistan. So it's a kind of a war zone. I've been deploying this particular video. I've been creating this particular video in the middle of a war zone between the India and Pakistan. It's the part of Rajasthan as well. Right, so here's the creation timestamp. That is the 9th of May 2025. It's the time when I created this particular service, this particular resource, and the name of it, my service app. Namespace has been set to default because I haven't mentioned any particular namespace. We can create our custom namespace as well and then deploy our resource by adjusting the namespace as well and put in. So that's why it's been set to default. And then the resource version, it's 1127. It is has some resource versions as well, and the hash value as well. UID, user ID, and the spec is cluster IP. It's the cluster IP. It's the IP that has been given to our service at the moment. So if we want if we want to set any external IP, external service at the moment, then it will be first, contacting our IP, our cluster IP that has been given to our service. This particular cluster IP I haven't given it, so that's why it's the default IP that has been set by the Kubernetes. Cluster IP is external traffic policies. Cluster internal traffic policy is also cluster IP families. It has IPv4, IP families, single stack ports. I mentioned about the ports as well. As I said, it has a port, target port. Protocol has been set to TCP because I haven't set, I haven't, gave any other thing as well. Later on in the videos, we will also try to go over about the service mesh, about the Ingress and the gateway APIs as well. My next video will be about the Ingress and gateway API and the Kuma gateway API as well. So it will be having different in the Ingress we usually have only TCP, but in the gateway APIs you can have different the protocols as well that you want to follow in your cluster at the moment in your application. So it's the protocol is TCP and the port is 80. Node port is 30,008. Alright, so the node port usually have if we can choose the node port to have a particular port number between 30,000 to 32,727, I guess. Sorry if I'm wrong. So 30,000 to 32,727, I guess. Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, I remember. All right, so the selector and the IP type, app, sorry, my app, and the type is front end at the moment. Session affinity, yeah, we'll try to understand about the node affinities and all those stuff. Also, these are really interesting topics that we'll be discussing about in some time. Type is NodePort. I cited NodePort. And the status is load balancers. Kind is list. Yeah, and metadata. And the resource version I haven't mentioned it, so that's why. Yeah, it's about the NodePort. What is it? Yeah. So NodePort. Its name was API service, I guess. Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah. And the other one, as I mentioned, is it is backend. Um, that's the cluster IP. I haven't deployed any backend service or the backend files at the moment. We'll be, deploying a full real-time application as well in future. As soon we get to know about the foundation of the whole Kubernetes at the moment. So uh, here we have. So as you can see, I haven't set to set any labels or either annotations. That's why it's been set to none. Timestamps, IPs, ports, protocols, everything was mentioned over here. Instead of jumping on to that, we can just get over to this service. Yeah, we can look into it. Sorry for building up this light version. So that's all right. So the API version V1 and the app version is also V1. Kind is service at the moment, and the metadata is same. And the creation timestamp 9th of May 2025 was on. Name is backend, namespace default. I didn't set any particular name, so that's why it's been set to the default. Then the resource version, UID, user ID, and the spec is cluster IP. It has its own IP. It isn't same as the uh, node port service. Yeah, as you can see, it's different. So the cluster IPs, and the internal traffic policies. IP family is IPv4. IP family policy single stack. Ports 80. Protocols TCP. The target port is also 80. We doesn't have any node port at the moment because we have been building up the cluster IPs. So that's why we doesn't have the node port. In the earlier one, we had our node port as well. Yeah, node port 30,008. It has the limit between 30,000 and 32,000. Yeah, as I mentioned, because hybrid is an hybrid. Also has our whole, the definition file of cluster IP. I said it, and then the yeah status, load balancers, node affinity, sorry, session affinity none is the default service that has been provided to us by the Kubernetes. There it is. Cluster IP API version is V1, kindly service. Also, V1, as I said, is the core, the library core set of API versions that has been that are hosted in the Kubernetes. So it's V1, or also has V1. While on the other hand, the replica sets and the deployments has the apps slash V1. And then later on, we will also try to, learn about the networking.kubernetes.io slash V1. We also have the batch API versions as well that are for the jobs and cron jobs. We'll try to understand about the jobs and cron jobs as well in the near future. It's the metadata. Creation time is 9th of May 2025. Labels API version Kubernetes default resource version is 235. Cluster IP has its own cluster IP because it's so the default service that has been provided to us, it's the cluster IP or the node IP and node plus node port, as I mentioned earlier. So it has its own cluster IP. Cluster IP is internet traffic policies set to cluster. IP families IPv4, IP family policy single stack. Name is ports name HTTPS. Ports is 443. protocol is TCP, and the target port is 6443. And the session affinity none. Cluster type is ClusterIP. So yeah, that was all about the clusters. We'll try that was all about the clusters and node ports and the load balancers as well. In the next future, in the next lectures, we'll try to understand about the namespaces, about the design and the other things as well. And in the next lectures, we'll also try to learn about the cron jobs and no, I mean in the next lecture, we'll try to understand about the ingress and the gateway APIs and the Kuma are the CNCF landscape project that I'll be bringing to you guys. We'll try to, get to know about the CNCF landscape project as well. I have my own playlist, so if you do want to know about the various different other CNCF landscape projects as well, I've also said, see a podcast with the Linsan as well. So if you want to know about the service mesh or the gateway APIs, about the glue mesh and various other things as well. So it's a really amazing topic. It's a really amazing talk podcast with Linsan. Really thanks to her as well. A huge shout out to her. Will also the K gateway APIs 2.0 has been set, I guess. Yeah. I just now got the update from my Slack channel. We'll try to understand about those particular things as well in the near future in the in the next videos. Maybe we have more guests onto our YouTube channel, onto our podcast playlist. All right. So if any particular engineer who have any particular knowledge or any doubt about any topic, they can contact me. If they also want to get involved with me in this journey of open source, in this journey of cloud native Kubernetes, the DevSecOps at the moment, security at the moment, so they can contact me and we can set up kind of a podcast with them as well. We also will bring more guests to our to our playlist, to our videos at the moment. So yeah, that was all about the services, about the basic Kubernetes components. So yeah, thanks. Radhe Radhe.